In this video we are going to take a closer look at the upcoming railgun of the Tau that was recently previewed on Warhammer Community and its potential impact on the Dreadnought meta lists of the Deathwatch. Over the course of the video we will first look at what exactly makes this new railgun so dangerous and what it means for vehicles in general. In the second part, we will then discuss its effect on the popular Dreadnoughts run in the Deathwatch and how to best deal with such upcoming threats.
Welcome to SwissHammer, your channel for modeling in Warhammer 40k. My name is Tammer and I will be guiding you through this video.
Before we get started, there is something I want to clarify. This video is not about singling out the upcoming Tau codex or the faction as a whole. I am well aware that Tau players have been in a rough spot for many months, and personally I find it disappointing how GW has done so very little about it, given all the FAQs and even a balanced data slate release. With that being said, I strongly believe that an injustice, or an imbalance in this particular case, should not be addressed through introducing fresh imbalances. As far as I'm concerned, the previous state of a faction should never result in a new codex to overcompensate for that. The only concern should be the overall balance of the game. I think all of us playing Space Marines into 9th edition can relate to that. With that being said, let's have a look at the stats for the Tau Railgun that has been previewed on Warhammer Community. 72 inches range, heavy 1, strength 14, -6 AP, damage D3 +6, in addition to 3 mortal wounds and ignoring invul saves. In short, whatever is getting hit by that thing is very likely to get wounded, with only feel no pain saves made possible against a minimum damage of 10, out of which 3 are mortals. I have said it months ago when they released the stats on Bellacor's piercing strike, and I will say it again now. As far as I'm concerned, high damage attacks bypassing several gates at once should not be a thing. Hell, I say the same about our very own Specialism Extremis stratagem and whether it is supposed to work with auto-hitting flamers or not. That aside, I also think that the last this edition needs are even more ways to take out big vehicles, which is a problem for a variety of armies, including Space Marines. The upcoming railgun is not the sole offender here, of course. It is just one more nail into the vehicle coffin. A quick flashback to older editions. Back when I started playing in 3rd edition, vehicles had an armor value, and in order to wound them, one had to at least match that value by adding the dice roll plus the strength of the weapon. It's been a few years since I played 3rd edition, but from the top of my head, one example as following. If a Land Raider had a front armor value of 14, a Devastator Marine with a strength 9 LasCannon would need to roll a 5+ to wound, and then there was another table to roll for, which would decide what would happen to the vehicle. Anything from stun to destroyed, basically. Details aside, the important point here is that back in the days, you needed to make a decent roll with a high strength weapon in order to take out the vehicle. While I do like how vehicles change to wounds and armor saves, it's far less of an all or nothing, which I consider a good thing. What I don't particularly like is that even medium strength weapons can damage vehicles with a high enough roll. Another quick flashback to 3rd edition, a strength 5 weapon could not wound a vehicle with an armor value of 12 because the highest maximum roll would have been 11. One of the reasons Dreadnoughts count among the best performing vehicles from a defensive perspective is that they can mitigate some of those non-dedicated anti-tank weapons thanks to their duty eternal, in addition to getting access to a variety of other benefits thanks to the core keyword. In case of the Deathwatch, for instance, they can be protected by the 5+ invul bubble from the Dominus Aegis relic, which is far more reliable than depending on Psychic Fortress. To make a long story short, a large majority of vehicles need help, not railguns. Having said that, how will this affect our popular dreadnoughts in the service of the Deathwatch? Both the Redemptor as well as the Relic Contemptor dreadnoughts come with a toughness of 7, which means the strength 14 railgun will wound them on a 2+, no armor save can be made, and the 5+ invul the Redemptor potentially gets from the Dominus Sieges and the Relic Contemptor already has built in won't work. Thanks to their duty eternal, they only take a minimum of 9 damage per hit, out of which 3 are mortal. This means that a Relic Contemptor gets one-shotted, while the Redemptor will be left at somewhere between 4 and 2 wounds. Because of its degrading profile, that is going to hurt either way. The only defensive option is the Armor of Contempt stratagem, which will at least give them a 5+ Pheno pay against the 3 mortal wounds. But either way, the main problem here is that a single high damage shot is basically rendering Duty Eternal close to useless. Combined with ignoring invul saves, this leaves Dreadnoughts to the same dark fate as the other vehicles. So what does this mean for the Deathwatch? Ultimately, we have neither seen the full stats of the Hammerhead, and neither have we seen the release of the Tau Codex yet. Nonetheless, I think we can safely assume that GW is perfectly willing to continue the power creep of 9th edition by introducing even more over-the-top weapons than before. This means that even Dreadnoughts might become riskier to play, which will be incredibly damaging to Space Marine armies in general, but of course also Deathwatch. As it currently stands, the Deathwatch meta has been dominated by Dreadnought heavy lists, and only recently with the release of the Army of Renown, this has started to change in favor of infantry heavy lists. For more information on the Army of Renown and their tournament results, feel free to check my previous videos linked in the description. One of the immediate criticisms of the new Kill Team Strike Force was of course the inability to take the overperforming Dreadnoughts. The good news is that should Dreadnoughts now become less viable in the meta, this results in a strengthening of our Army of Renown. But the Warhammer Community also previewed an alternative firing mode for the Railgun through the submunition stratagem. This is basically the anti-infantry mode, which is limited to 36 inches range. Roll 1d6 for each model in that unit, adding 1 to each roll if that unit has 11 or more models. For each 4+, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound up to a maximum of 8 wounds. Now, the advantage here for the Deathwatch is that we tend to combat squad a lot, so this is far less effective than against horde-style armies. Furthermore, even if we keep the kill team at 10 models, they are all multi-wound, and through playing the Army of Renown, we get access to several rounds of 5-ups against mortal wounds as an army-wide benefit, say through Black Templars or Successor Chapter tactic picks. This would fit well into a meta with Grey Knights and Thousand Suns anyway, should they continue to be there once Tau reach their peak. All in all, there are currently a lot of unknown factors past the Railgun preview. We don't know the full datasheet, we don't know the full Tau Codex, we don't know if units like the Hammerhead will even be part of the Tau meta. Nonetheless, I think such previews as well as comments along the lines of that this won't even be the most powerful weapon are a good indicator that we will see threats coming in 2022 that will potentially put the final nail into the vehicle coffin that is 9th edition, by bypassing even what makes Dreadnoughts great in a Deathwatch army. Fortunately though, we have the Army of Renown at our disposal, which turns out to have a lot of answers, considering that it also comes with a lot of restrictions. For a full review on our Army of Renown, feel free to check out my previous video linked in the description. To wrap things up, over the course of the video, we have looked at the Tau Railgun preview featured on Warhammer Community and why it is going to be devastating to vehicles, including Dreadnoughts, even the ones in the Deathwatch. The Railgun will be powerful enough to one-shot the Relic Contemptor and severely wound the Redemptor Dreadnought. I cannot stress this enough. This video is by no means against Tau in particular, but rather a wake-up call to us Deathwatch players. While our Dreadnought heavy lists have been going strong in the meta for many months, this preview hints at GW being willing to keep bumping up the power creep to the point where even Dreadnoughts will suffer the same fate as the other Space Marines vehicles currently stuck on the shelf. I think vehicles need an overhaul in general, and while I would not want to go back to the 3rd edition armor rules, I think that there should be a better defense against medium arms fire, and even anti-tank should still require at least a somewhat decent wound roll to completely shred a vehicle. A 2+ just isn't that. On the bright side of things, should Dreadnoughts turn out to be a less suitable answer to the upcoming meta, we still have a very potent army of Renown, the Kill Team Strike Force. The ability to pick any chapter or successor tactic each round makes such lists even more adaptable than Deathwatch as a whole already is. All in all, what better time to play Deathwatch than now? So that's it for the upcoming railgun of the Tau and its potential impact on the Dreadnought meta lists of the Deathwatch. How do you guys rate this preview, and how do you think that it will affect the Deathwatch? Any changes you are doing to your lists? Let me know in the comments. Finally, I would also like to mention that there is a SwissHammer Facebook page where I will be posting links to my videos as well as articles I find of interest. I do read a lot about the hobby, but not all of it will always end up as its own video. I look forward to seeing you there as well. I do also have a Patreon page. If you like my content, any additional support is greatly appreciated as it helps me invest into future videos. As always, thank you very much for watching, guys. Your continued support is greatly appreciated. I hope you have been enjoying this video. Give me a thumbs up if you did, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thanks again, and see you next time.